Auto sequence start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello there. Welcome, my fellow behavioral experts, to another installment of Canned Conversation. My name is Andrew, and with me, as always, my good friend Steven.
What's going on, behavioral expert?
All of my fellow
All of us.
behavioral experts.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk a little bit about behavior today, I think, or at least an aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, my friend, is there a person in the pop culture world you just could go without hearing about for, I don't know,
ever
6 months at least?
Oh, there's a long list, but it starts at like
Who's number one?
Kim Kardashian down.
She's number one. You know, I don't hear about her enough now. I'll tell you my number one.
Any of the Kardashians, and then Kanye.
Elon Musk.
Oh,
I mean, with this whole Twitter thing going on stuff, I'm like, just do what you're going to do with Twitter. I don't understand why I need a daily update or like to hear that. And I don't even try to listen for it.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's there.
And if you look at like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok users, and then Twitter is so far down that list of social media users,
right?
Which I didn't realize until they showed it on the freaking news. And I'm like, why does anybody even care about Twitter anymore? I get that there's some influencers or whatever on Twitter, but like you took over a social media platform that it's crap anyway, in my opinion.
Right. And so now I got to figure out how to pay now a monthly thing because like our canned combo needs a check mark.
We need a check mark,
but it's going to cost me, I don't know,
$8 a month for a check mark.
Oh my gosh, we're going to need a new sponsor.
Yeah.
If you're one of those, just reach out.
We're going to need a sponsor.
This blue check mark is brought to you today by number two. My number two is Kanye West as well, and just a lot of now anti-Semitism has seemed to be like all over. More people now are talking more about it.
As if his words mean more than anybody else's words in the world. I don't care about his words. No. I don't care what they are. I don't care about them. Yeah, like, I really just stop talking about him.
Or I don't listen to him or that basketball player and go, you know what?
Right.
Now I have a problem with this race of people.
Yeah. I've been misconceiving Jews for this entire time. Right. Thanks, Kanye. Nobody cares.
No. And then my last one on here, other than the new candidate for president, is Nick Cannon. I don't understand why I'm updated on his breeding count often. I mean, I get that it's too high.
Yeah.
But seriously, I feel like I'm hearing it all the time.
Yeah. There was a running joke, right? Because we hit 8 billion people in the world, and they're like 10% of that's Nick Cannon's kids, and
he didn't help.
No.
All right. Well, let's get past that a little bit. So those three people, at least in my opinion, please just go away for a second, or at least stop talking about them. Talk about somebody else more interesting. And as is our shtick, one of us brings a new, unique, or rare canned beverage to try, and while we lap up its contents, we're going to do our very best to entertain you with our take on life's most interesting topics. Today being about the psychological warfare that is passive-aggressive. And I guess if Steven thinks this is a good topic, then I guess we'll do it.
I appreciate the passive-aggressive intro. That's awesome.
Later in the show, we're going to come back and review and rate said canned beverage and let you know if you should try it while making poor decisions at your annual company Christmas party.
Nice.
That's
all I do.
I thought, and when I was thinking about that as an intro, I'm like, I wanted to say when you're at your Christmas party, like when your butt's hanging out on the copy machine, but I don't think that's a thing anymore.
It's not.
I don't know how many copy machines.
That's an old man reference, is what that is.
How many copy machines still live on out there? Probably not a lot.
No. How many people go into the office?
Right. It's not as a fun reference as it used to be, but I'm sure there's still some poor decision being made at the annual Christmas
But they're probably
party.
virtual happy hours where somebody's, got weird stuff going on in the background.
Turn off Joe's Zoom.
Right.
He's starting to disrobe.
Go on mute. Go on mute. We can hear your wife. Like, that's weird.
Oh, no good.
Moving on.
'Tis the season. Party it up, everybody.
Agreed.
All right, so we need a can.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Think of a place that's really perfect. Your own happy place. Go there, and all your anger will just disappear.
Right.
That's a Happy Gilmore quote.
It is. Look at you.
I win on a movie quote.
All right.
Love it.
So,
It's a good movie.
I'm messing with all the wrong buttons here.
Yeah, stop
No
messing
matter
with
these
buttons.
volumes. Don't worry about it. We got it. So, Happy Gilmore, fantastic movie.
Yep, love
and a great line out of that movie. So, having to do with anger, and I kind of put that with the passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, I love it.
Seems to stem from a little bit of anger.
Yeah, or agree. It's some sort of resentment, some sort of something that you're not addressing. Agree. So I brought can today. The can is from one of our guests. Billy sent us a can. It's called Lemon Slice.
Lemon slice.
The old lemon slice.
Right.
It's Prairie Artisan Ale, and so I'm gonna forewarn you that it is a sour ale with lemon zest and vanilla. So they added lemon to sour. I'm not certain that is going to be a great combination for us, but since this is a guest sponsored beer, we're going to give them a sticker.
Oh yeah, nice.
We got these lovely Can Conversation stickers. So I'm sending Billy a sticker for giving us a beer to try. So
it's a sour ale with lemon zest and lemon juice, but it also has vanilla. It says and vanilla with it. 5.2% alcohol by volume, and it's 12 Florida ounces. And what I do enjoy about the can is that it's got a nod to roller derby.
Yeah,
right.
It's a great can for one. So it's got a giant roller skate on lemon circles.
As its wheels.
So, and then it's got just all these crazy cartoony roller derby chicks beating the snot out of each other. Like there's one that's I think tipping over a guy who's got a plate of donuts. Like it's
the hot dogs. He's the vendor.
Is that hot dogs? Okay, I'm like donuts doesn't make any sense at all.
She hit the vendor, the hot dog vendor, and the ref is calling a foul on that.
And there's another one that's punching somebody. Like it's got they've done some really good artwork on this. They've done well with the can, but so we'll see about the contents.
Yeah, because lemon. I always think of pucker. Like it just makes me pucker up.
And I got a feeling this one's going to be the same.
Yeah. So, all right.
All right. Well, good. So, I brought the can. I brought the topic. My topic for you today is passive aggressiveness. And I'm going to try to be as assertive with this topic as I can be without being aggressive or passive. So, with that said, I'm going to give you like we always do here, like usually our topics are based on things that are happening in our world. And I'm going to try to be as politically correct about this as I can, but then also very reflective on this. So, and you take this wherever you want to go. I would love to hear your real life examples if they are safe for podcast world.
Yes.
So, been dealing with a gig for a few months now, and starting to get kind of my feet underneath me, which is great. I feel good about it. But there is some passive aggressiveness happening on my team, and I like the last couple of weeks I've been just like coworkers, like passive aggressiveness at work, right? And you're like, oh, like when you get on a call and somebody's like, well, I think it's this, and maybe you hem-haw around a little bit about it and go, oh, I think we could do it this other way, and then they go, well, if you don't really want to do it my way, that's fine. I guess we'll just do it the other way that's bad, right? Or whatever that is, right? So that very passive aggressive, I'll just go along with whatever, even though we all know, I think I know the different way. So just frustrating, right? I'm like, oh, passive aggressive. Just tell me you don't like it, or tell me you like it, or help me understand a different way. And so I got really frustrated. And then I started thinking, there's other things that are going on in my life, or that have gone on in my life recently, that are passive aggressive people. And I think we deal with that with kids who, don't want to tell you, don't want to tell you no, or don't want to seem like they're just like, I'll put him off. I'll put like just passive aggressive responses to things that go, oh, I don't really like that, but I don't want to tell you that I don't really like that. And then I'm like, my God, it's all around me. Why is everyone else passive aggressive and I'm not? And then I'm like, oh my God, I think maybe I'm probably passive aggressive. So I looked it up. this is how this all started, right? So I'll give you my definition.
All right. This is your definition.
By mine, I mean probably Wikipedia. I don't know.
Or whatever came up first in your Google search.
When you Google search it, this is the first thing I found.
Right.
That is fair. So it could be completely inaccurate.
The
but
new
you tell
blue
me.
check mark brought to you by Google.
That's right. So denotes a type of behavior or personality characteristic by indirect resistance or demands of others and an avoidance of direct confrontation, as in procrastinating can be passive aggressive, pouting, or misplaced importance materials. I don't even know what that means, really. Misplacing important materials can be passive aggressive, whatever that is. But, and so I'm like, I wish people would be less passive aggressive. What would they be? And I'm like, I want people to be
aggressive.
I don't want them to be aggressive, right? Like, I don't want you to be passive. I don't want you to just go along with me, but I don't want you to be aggressive and just fight me on everything. So I want you to be assertive. So I looked up assertive, right? So just for the record, ready or likely. That's aggressive. No one wants that. Having or showing a confident or forceful personality, which that doesn't sound great either. A forceful personality.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people hear assertiveness, it can be construed in both a positive and a negative way. A lot of people that I hear say that they're really assertive. They really know what they want.
Right.
And they know how the steps they want to take to get there. And so they're championing. I'm missing an N in there.
Yeah, championing.
Championing that road that they think will bring a success. But I've also heard, they're just being, and maybe over assertive usually goes in front of assertive, but it's like, wow, this person won't back off.
Because they don't want to say the word aggressive because that sounds super aggressive.
Right. And aggressive has sort of a bad connotation to it, I think. Outside of sports. Yeah. I think in sports, when you're talking about aggressive, it's a good thing. Right. Man, they're aggressive on the ball.
There's cheerleaders saying be aggressive.
Aggressive.
Right. B-E aggressive.
Yes.
They're spelling it almost. Yeah. Okay. So just out of curiosity, do things like, so I'm going to give you a couple sayings. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple sayings.
Well, if you think that that's the best route to take, then we'll go ahead and do it.
So I want to know if these things, how you handle these things, or if these things upset you, or you don't care. So, no, I'm not mad.
Well, I mean, that's a direct answer. When you had first said, hey, I'm going to talk about passive aggressiveness. Immediately, our brains the gears start to turn. And I started saying some phrases in my head. Mm-hmm. And, to me, I was like, okay, what is passive aggressive? Like, what's a really good passive aggressive saying maybe that I know? Because I think on the surface, everybody knows the words passive aggressive.
Yep.
And
what's it really mean?
And when they're hearing it, they go, man, that was kind of passive aggressive.
Right. Yeah, I don't, and to me, I translate that to, I don't think you're saying what you're thinking. I think you're saying what you think will either get you out of this conversation or that I want to hear. That, to me, is what passive aggressive is.
I think you're saying what you're feeling without confrontation. Okay. Or borderline confrontation. So like when I started to think about passive aggressive,
just enough to the line to not have to not be confrontational, but be able to pull it back.
Yeah. So because in my mind, I was like, there's a lot of tone involved. You really have to hear the tone of it. Because if you were writing something and you said, okay, we'll go ahead and do it that way if you think that's a good idea. Well, if you just read that, you'd go, well, that sounds pretty positive. We'll go ahead and do that if you think that's a good idea. Because that's your idea. You think it's good. We're going to do it.
Right.
But the tone,
when
if you
hear
go,
it,
I guess we're going to go ahead and do that.
If you think
that's a good idea.
Right. It's all about emphasis.
It really takes a complete turn, right? And that's when you get and I think that's where the passiveness comes into it, where it's like the words are making sense in a positive way, but the tone in your body language or in your inflection is really kicking me in the gut,
right?
As if to say, that is the dumbest thing, and I'm probably not going to want to do it that way. So if you go back to your statement, now that was a really short one.
Most of them are.
Okay. Because I think in terms of like, so
you're listening for tone in a conversation, and I'm
meaning behind what they're actually saying.
Intent behind
because their words don't match. Their intent does not match the words.
Right.
That's kind of how I almost define passive aggressiveness.
Right, so I'm going to put it in context for you. Your wife's stomping around in the kitchen or in the family room, and you go, "Hey, what's wrong? Are you mad?" And she says, "I'm not mad."
Right.
But you know something's wrong.
Right. And this comes up in marriage quite frequently.
Daily.
Right. Well, I hope not daily.
Daily. Listen to my words, people.
All right. But yeah, I mean, we definitely run into those circumstances, and and immediately you go back to all the history that you have, and you're trying to sort through the Rolodex of, okay, the last time she said this, and then what turned out, did it turn out bad? Like, do I press? And see, I'm that person, and it really makes my wife more mad, because I'll go, well, there's obviously something wrong, and it would be just better if you put it out on the table,
right,
and then we'll know it. And she'll go, but I don't want to. And that's really her right.
Agree.
But
when you're ready,
I'm pretty selfish, because I'm like, well, this is going to be a thing now.
Right.
Now I'm going to be thinking about it. Should I be thinking about it? Is it me, or is it? And most of the time, I think I get down to that, where I'm like, is it something about me, or can I just let you stew about
because
something outside?
Because if it doesn't have anything to do with you, you're like, I can go away and let you work it out in your brain, and I know that I haven't done something stupid. Right. But really.
And if it's me, then I'm like, well, let me tell you how you're thinking about it wrong.
Right. Let me tell you how you're wrong, so I can still go away and not think about it anymore.
And that just makes her head explode when I'm like, and I think that's why she doesn't want to get into it, because she's like, you're just going to tell me why I'm wrong, and it's going to come back on something I did. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well,
Well, then you think about that and let me know what you come up with. Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, is that passive aggressive? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Sure. It's definitely non-confrontation. You're avoiding the confrontation, but you're letting them know, yeah, well, I am actually mad.
Yeah.
But again, the words don't match the meaning. So, yes, passive aggressive.
Okay. So how do you handle people who tell you, fine, whatever? Do you have anybody in your life that tells you fine, whatever?
Yeah, I don't like that. No, I don't do well with that. Because I probe, then I go, well, and if, especially at work, then I'll go, well, hey, if there's something I'm missing, and I usually try to bring it back to me, right? Like, where I go, I'll fall on this sword and go, hey, maybe I said something that was offensive. Yep. Maybe there was something that I didn't mean to imply, or maybe I just don't get, because there's stuff going on in your life, that I don't know about. Like, just help me understand what it is I'm missing. So that I do try to, I don't like to just let it, but I also know, right, that if you press it, it could get worse. Yes. For that person,
Yeah. If you press it and they're not ready to talk about it, absolutely.
Right. The passive will leave the aggression, and then it will just get aggressive.
Be aggressive. Yeah, there's kind of a I guess, I don't know, coaching saying, but it's probably a known. People aren't ready. Like, you have to meet people where they're at, and sometimes they're not ready to hear. Like, their brain's not done processing it yet, and if you interrupt that process, you're only getting half-baked thoughts anyway, or you're getting, like, I haven't really figured out how I want to address it yet. So if you interrupt me thinking about how I want to address it, you're only going to get half the process, and it's probably going to come out with emotion and angry, and you're going to get weirdness from me.
Right.
Sometimes I just need processing time to go, I'm mad about this. I don't even know why. Or like, you've done something and I don't know how to like convey what went on. So give me a hot minute. And so I'm sure that in those times I'm passive aggressive, going, no, I'm fine. Things are fine.
But see, and I guess to the point of maybe where you're going to go with this eventually.
Who knows where I'm going?
Because I figure if you brought this subject up, you must know where it's going to go.
Yeah, I know the end.
To me, I'm sure there's passive aggressiveness in all of us.
Yeah.
Right. And that's probably part of, I don't know if that's part of your point. I don't want to step on your topic there, but I'm sure it's prevalent in all of us. It's like, but do we realize we're doing something like that? And is that the best way to approach it? Usually I try. I'm not, nobody's perfect, but I try to go, yeah, something is upsetting me, but it's not you, or it's something you did, but I need a minute. I'll come back. I'll talk with you about it. Just give me some time. Or if I want to address it right then, I go, here's what I thought, and here's my issue. I try to be succinct, and then go, take with it and do with it what you want. I don't, I'm not looking for an argument necessarily, but I just want you to know.
Right.
I could be in the wrong.
Well, you say,
Doubtfully.
I'm going to put I mean, like there's a 1% chance. And okay.
I do my best effort to do that because I don't want to be that where it's a guessing game, right? Because then I feel like it can become a game, right? Especially if you let it linger.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And sometimes letting it linger is what, like watching that passive aggressiveness fester, all of a sudden turns into its own thing. Like now you're mad. I think you're mad about everything.
Right.
Like you kind of whip yourself into I don't like, it affects everything else. I don't like anything about anything. And all you really are is mad about this one thing, but all of a sudden now your whole perception of life is you've festered on it.
It's a veil of anger.
Yeah, it is.
And you're looking through everything through that lens. Agreed. Do you have some other phrases?
I have tons. Yeah, we're not tons.
We only gotten through one.
I know. So. We're not doing so great.
No, we're doing perfect.
We're doing perfect.
Perfect.
So there was a couple on here that reminded me. Well, I'm not going to taint the pool here. So, sorry.
Don't pee in it.
Yeah. Nope. Not doing it. So there are a couple on here that I thought were lumped together. I didn't know you meant now is one. I thought you were joking is one.
I thought you were joking. Okay. That's an interesting one. Do you have a personal experience with that, or do you did you write these down going, okay, yeah, this gets used at work or personal?
So I thought you were joking, meaning someone who goes, so you asked me for something and they go, oh, I thought you were joking, meaning I don't want to tell you your idea is bad, or I don't want to outright say, I hate what you've asked me to do, or I'm not going to do it. Playing it off. It's that whole, I'm just kind of playing it off as like, oh, I thought you were kidding around. You didn't really need that from me. Oh, I'll get right on that. Right. Or like that kind of deflection-ish.
Is that more of a work? Cause I'm like, you say something from me. So if you're talking about work, that seems to me, that's kind of a real interesting gray area, right? Cause like, I thought you were joking. Really? I asked for this.
Right. I said, I need this. Right. And you said yes. And then you walked in. You're like, I thought you were joking. No.
Now I can see maybe at home or in personal life.
Sure. Let's take it in personal life. Have you ever had somebody like I joke around constantly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure.
And sometimes I'm not joking around and my kids have been like, oh, I think you're being serious now. And I'm like,
right.
Kinda. Yeah. I need you to pay attention and know when I'm being serious versus when I'm just completely messing with you and, trying to screw up your world.
Yeah, we had I put that in text because, so this past weekend, just a brief story, we went to a family event, and before we left, it was an external event at a church, and so they were having people over after, and with food and stuff. And so the hosts, who were related, said, hey, we have this food and it's in these containers and we just want to keep it warm. And it should be about an hour and a half, and then we'll come back. Is this okay to put in the oven? And on super warm, like 100, 150, something like that.
Right.
And the general consensus was, yeah, that should be fine. And then as we left and we were at the gig, at the thing, we were kind of like, oh, I hope the house doesn't burn down. Right?
Yeah, super passive aggressive.
Well, and we're back and forth and the host was participating, right? Going, yeah, we're going to get back and all those ravioli are going to be completely ruined. I'll have nothing to serve the guests. And then we're doing all this joking, right?
Right.
And then they stayed behind for a few more pictures and we're like, hey, we're going to go and we're just going to go get that food out of the oven. And so my wife and I go to the house. We come in and there's smoke billowing out of the stove. And she opens the stove and it's all melted. It like all of the containers are melted, and somehow we think that the oven got turned. It either automatically turned itself up because it didn't like being so low. I don't know. It was a new oven. I won't get into those specifics, but just know that there was what we were joking about
was happening
in real time. and so my wife's trying to get the food out of put anything that might be on fire out, right? Because I was like, we were pulling up to the house and we're like, hey, the house is still here.
Was the crap on fire? Seriously, like the plastic was melting and
it was.
Turning
if
into
it
flames?
wasn't on actual flames,
it was smoking like crazy.
Yeah, it was. The plastic had been like molten lava, and
that ruined their oven.
I don't. That's to be determined.
Okay,
I need an update on that. We were trying to get a lot of it. I'm like, while it's molten lava, let's scoop it out.
Yeah,
right?
Like,
don't let
liquid.
it solidify. And we can only get so much. But my wife's doing that, like getting stuff out, and she goes, let them know that this is happening because a lot of their food is ruined for all these guests that are coming over. So I get on the texter and I'm like, hey, that thing that we thought was going to happen happened. By the way, this is not a joke at all.
Right. Not joking, not funny. Your house almost caught on fire.
Yeah.
Or at least it's full of smoke.
We open and you're doing all the smoke stuff, right? You're opening doors, looking for fans. This is not even my house, right? Like, so I'm like, what's the best way to get the smoke out of here? And knowing that about 40 people are about to, show up
And have no toasted ravioli.
right? So there was some food, like it didn't ruin everything, but there was an instance where I knew we had been joking, and when I went to text that, I thought they're going to think I'm joking,
right?
In the text, hey,
that's when you need to take a picture and go, "This is what your oven looks like with smoke billowing out."
That was probably a good idea to do, is take a picture, but I was trying fast,
not joking. Right. Crap's messed up.
We're trying to fix it. By the way,
we have a dumpster fire. We're trying to handle it, but just know you're
going to come home to that.
Yeah. This is what you and 40 of your closest friends are coming home to.
I felt so terrible. I was like,
that's brutal.
Yeah. I kind of derailed. I'm sorry.
No, the story is perfect. So that I can't believe that happened this weekend for one, because that would freak me out if I went to somebody else's house and it's like, hey, your house
is the worst feeling.
There's smoke billowing out.
It's the worst feeling. I mean,
I'm not even in my house.
I looked immediately up, and when you see all the smoke up, like in the high reaches of places, and
you're like, I can't get that out.
Right.
That's gonna stink forever, and it's plastic, burnt plastic, right? Like it's not even. It's
right. I'm like,
forever.
that oven is just gonna be. And it was new, and so I really hope the magic eraser. I'm like, that stuff that works on everything. That magic erase.
That's brutal.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well,
so
I'll get an
Know
update.
you cannot leave plasticware in your oven.
So when my wife turned the corner, she said when she looked at the oven, it said like 300 or 350, not where they had wanted to set it, which was like 125, because ovens don't even go to a certain.
Yeah, they start it.
Right. So,
and I always think that's crazy, but room temperature is, 75.
Right.
Right. So,
just need to keep this at 120.
Right.
Anyway. All right. So
I got one more for you, and then we'll rate a beer or something. I don't know. Have you ever heard, and if you're a liar if you say no, you just want everything perfect.
Wow. I don't really hear that often. Is that, again, more work?
No, think of it personal.
Okay. All right. So maybe it's in just different words, but yeah, because that phrase didn't hit, but then understanding my personality type and the way that I, interact with my family. Yes. I believe that everything has a place and it should be there, and things should be generally uncluttered and all that. I'm sure my family has often come back when I'm like, hey, why is this like this? Why is this mess like that? And they're like, everything can't be clean all the time.
So do you see that as passive aggressive, or do you see it as just pure aggressive?
I see it more as aggressive. Yeah, because they're not trying to placate me, right? They're not going, well, that's true. I mean, in a perfect world, everything would be clean like you would expect it to be. No, they just go, you have unrealistic expectations about how clean things should be.
So I saw this thing.
In not so many words, that's what they say.
I saw this thing. Sorry, this is going to be a tangent. I can't help it. On the Instagram, on the gram.
Uh-huh.
And it talked about Einstein went in front of a class and did his times tables 9 times 1, 9 times 2, 9 times 3, got them all right, purposely got 9 times 9 wrong by 1. Right. And so
82.
Yeah. And so the class starts laughing and he says, I did this it's basically summarized. This is a life lesson. You can do everything right except for one thing, and people only focus on the one thing that you did wrong. They won't look at all the things that you just got done being right at and appreciate any of that. They'll only pick on the one thing you did wrong. So now my question to you is, when people go, but yeah, you just want everything to be perfect. Do you ever think, oh, well, maybe I've not noticed that, yeah, your room's not great, but it's better than it was. You made incremental improvement. It's a 5 out of 10 instead of a 2 out of 10 on a scale.
Sub out people for my family and the way that they view sometimes how I approach things in our family life, and you've nailed it. Yes, they will say you tend to focus on the negative. You always bring up the negative. I could probably talk another hour on sort of how I feel about that. But that's like, as it relates to passive aggressive, I don't then get passive aggressive about it. I get aggressive, unfortunately.
Right.
Because then to me, I do celebrate the successes that seem to be warrant, I would think, success praise. And not everything in life, does. And I think that's a big separator of people and generations. And I don't want to apply something to a whole generation, but it's very popularized to go, oh, we should be celebrating everything little Nancy does. Right. So if if little Nancy has her room is partially clean, you go, well, you've made incremental process. No, I mean, if she's old enough to have her room to your expectation and she knows your expectation, and then it should be close. And if it's not, that's fine. I don't come in swinging, right? I don't come in going, that's the dumbest thing you've ever done, right? Like, unless there's marker all over the wall and you're like 15, right? Like, if you're old enough to understand something
that
crazy,
you've
destroyed
property
your room.
destruction.
But if I come in and I go, your room really should be cleaner than this, and they go, that's all you ever focus on is the negative. I'm like, back up. I didn't come at you that hard. I just like your room should be cleaner. Well, you should recognize that it's not completely filthy. What? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I know it does for other people, but for me, like that, I go, yeah, there's an expectation I know you can meet. And if you go, yeah, man, and all I'm looking for is, and this is where it gets interesting in the relationship. All I'm looking for is, yeah, I get it. And I had a rough night. It was a long night and I threw some clothes on the floor, but I knew I was going to get to it today. Don't worry, Dad. I'm going to get it today. Dude, I would be so happy with that. I would just go, you are my favorite, right? Like, but that is not in the vocabulary because they're like, you come at me, I'm coming at you, right?
Isn't that weird? Like, in your head, the response you're looking for is, yeah,
right.
Didn't do it.
Just own it.
Just be transparent with me and go, yeah, I didn't meet your expectations. I get that. Right. But I also had other things come up.
Right.
And it's not that I'm not trying to meet your expectations.
Right.
I've got other stuff going on. I prioritize something else above that, but I'll get to it. It will get done towards what we've agreed to is what clean room means.
And if I see that that's what they're going towards, I love it. I'm like, that's awesome. Thank you. You owned it. You made some sense. And now you're saying you're going to do it. And then it doesn't take 2 more days for it to get done. Right. Like then it's like by that night or something, I see that you're making inroads. To me, that would be bliss. Right. But for them, and they've said this to me before, my family, they're like, just because you said it, now I was going to want to clean my room. You said clean your room?
That's passive aggressive too.
Is that passive aggressive? That's just aggressive.
That may just be aggressive.
I think that's pretty aggressive.
Or just nonsense.
Because they're like, because you said it, now I don't want to do it. And I'm probably not going to. To what you, and that is, so, I did look, some of that is like willful inefficiency.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's passive aggressive. Is I purposely it's called
sabotaging.
So on here is some of the behaviors you look for is stonewalling, pretending to agree, sarcastic comments, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
but intentionally failing to follow through. And I think that that is like I'm intentionally going, now I don't want to. Now I'm not gonna.
Right.
So what I heard is passive aggressive comment, assertive / aggressive response turned into aggressive back. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Now. Holy Moses.
Dr. Phil, what do I do?
I'm not here to fix any of this.
Doesn't any of this happen to you? Like, I feel like this is, I'm on the couch here. Like, but you are a different person than I am. So like, it's probably manifesting for different reasons. Mine is probably that.
Yeah. We have different personality types.
Right.
But what I realized, so all of this came down to, so realizing that there is passive aggressiveness in my own behavior sometimes. And it comes out differently depending on how my interaction level is or my relationship level is. And if I'm already frustrated about something, I get real passive aggressive. I mean, I think I can. Like if I'm frustrated,
I want to hear more about this. I think we're at a good break.
That's what I'm saying. Let's go reflect on the backside.
And then I want to hear yours because, I want to hear about sarcasm involved in that because we can have sarcasm, in the war chest.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm sure that
it's one of the only tools in my tool belt.
I like how you say tool belt and I say war chest.
Yeah. My boss said, that's all you got is a smile and sarcasm. You better figure out how to use it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's all I do have. All right. So let's rate lemon slice.
All right.
You want me to start?
Because
I brought it via a guest. So lemon slice. It was no joke with lemons and puckering.
Yes.
Although I'm getting used to it.
Really?
Yeah. It's real lemony.
Yeah.
It's real puckery. And I that sour, I mean, it doesn't even taste like a sour. It tastes like you're kind of eating lemons. I'm not going to lie. It's just real tart.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to finish this, but it's not something I'm going to pick up again on purpose. Nor would I get it if it was on tap at a bar. Because of it, it almost makes your mouth water. It's so puckery. So I'm going to give it a 2.
Okay. Yes. This is very lemony. Right out of the gate, it tasted like I was like I had opened a lemon juice container and then squirted it. Those like little lemons.
Yeah,
and
fake
lime.
lemon juice. Yeah.
And then like if I squirted that in my mouth, that's what I feel like this is. I don't taste any vanilla.
I was going to say there's 0 vanilla for me on this.
Right. And so it's a sour. Hey, now did they make the ale sour and then also add lemon?
Yeah, they made the ale sour and then like, that's not sour.
Or is it sour because of the lemon? I don't know enough to know that, but I know it's super zesty, super lemony. Yeah. I feel like this would be the mixer for a cocktail that I'm just drinking the mixer. And I'm not drinking the thing that tames down the bite to that lemon.
Yeah, this would tame down the bite to some whiskey or something.
It would be, like, I'm like sweet and sour is this level of pucker. Where if I just drank sweet and sour, I'd go oof.
Ooh, yeah.
But if I put the tequila and one other thing, maybe I don't know what does that, but it tamps down that to a certain extent. I'm not getting it with this. So I'm at a 2-star as well.
Well,
lots of pucker.
I'll be honest with you though. Prairie Artisan Ales knocked it out of the park with their can design.
Yeah, that name is somewhat familiar. I was just looking at real quick to see if we had any other Prairie Artisan, and I'm not seeing it.
I'm guessing this is probably a local to. Well, I don't know. They've got some information about here other states. They may be shipping to other states, but I had a feeling this is Texas.
Yeah, no other Prairie Artisan, but
Prairie
Artisan is in some names here and there. So I thought maybe that's what I was picking up on. But all right, well, I love that we threw it in there. I love, it's not something I would probably pick up off the shelf because when I see lemon, I'm not even a lemonade fan. Really, it's a little too puckery. I keep saying puckery, but
I brought this.
What's the word I'm looking for? Tart.
A
little too tart.
It's tart.
I don't really gravitate towards tart things.
So I thought this might be passive aggressive when I got it out of the fridge today. I'm like, sours. I knew it was going to be lemony but Yeah. So it's a passive aggressive. Technically, I think it's aggressive on the lemon. If I had to rate it.
All right. So where's sarcasm fall with passive aggressive?
So this is what made me reflective and what made me choose this as a topic when I started looking at passive aggressive a little bit, in that it goes, hey, here's the behaviors you should look out for, that people who make excuses, intentionally failing to follow through, silent sabotage. So I'm not going to tell you, but I'm going to make sure this doesn't work, right? Deflection, pretending to agree, stonewalling, and sarcastic comments. I was good on going, those are other people's problems, all the way down to sarcastic comments. And I was like, that is not other people's problems. That is my problem. And then I caught myself doing it today. And I'm like,
at work?
No.
At
home with my wife. And I'm like, I bet you I do this thing. I bet I use sarcasm as a passive aggressive mechanism probably daily.
So was it worth sharing what the sarcastic comment?
It's always just so today
I'm
was.
sure your wife would like to hear.
I'm sure
you
she
admit
would. She probably would. So we had a couple instances. One is I cooked some steak on this pot thing, and she's like,
on a pot thing.
I'm sorry, on a like a pan that is like a griddle pan or something. Like it's got ridges in it, so it's like not a real like frying pan. But
griddle.
Yeah, but a griddle is the one you plug in. This is the thing you put on the stove.
I don't think griddle is defined by the fact that you plug it in. You can have an electric griddle, which you plug in, but then a griddle
is a flat top
that you put on. But sometimes it has those ridges for like making bacon and stuff where the grease will.
Yeah, it's that thing.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
But it's not cast iron.
No.
You should have done cast iron.
100% yes. And I asked, should I do cast iron? She's like, I think it'll be quicker to clean this other thing.
Okay.
What? Mind you, it's whatever that non-stick stuff is. And I use
Teflon?
Yeah. Well, whatever you're not supposed to use a knife on.
Right.
I used a knife on.
Right.
I jacked up this thing. And I
flavors
said,
the meat when you use the knife.
She's like,
the
hey,
Teflon in the.
I think you messed up this pan is scratched now. And I made some sort of smart comment.
You don't remember what it was?
I'm sure I don't.
You're just not willing to admit it.
And so then I caught myself in the middle of it, and I go, you know what? I'm sorry. I did do that. That is 100% me. And she's like, so she was in the middle of yelling at me about being passive aggressive. And when I stopped her to say, listen, that is 100%. And she goes, and she was saying, all I needed you to say was, and I go, just know this is completely my fault. And I shouldn't have done, like 100% on me, 100%. But my immediate response was some sort of snark. And I'm like, that's super passive aggressive. And then she said something else about, it's probably inappropriate for this, something else. And I made like a, that's what she said kind of joke, or like, you wish you would, or like some sort of passive aggressive intimacy joke. Right. And she's like, she turns around and looks at me and smiles. And I'm like, I'm sure I meant that more aggressively or assertively. And I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking in my head. This is what we should be doing or whatever. And she's like, why you gotta make jokes about everything? So sarcasm in general, I think is like my weapon.
Yeah.
And I don't know how often I use it as a passive aggressive mechanism.
So that's an interesting take, right? Because I also think that the sarcastic remarks can also be entertaining, right? Because it's the Ginsu
knife
right.
of
and some people say sarcasm is the lowest form of humor, right? But it's the low hanging fruit, right? So it's like it's an easy which wham, right? And you come back and
it's one-liners, man.
So I don't know if I would say all sarcasm is necessarily passive aggressive, but it's certainly it's there to entertain. And we've always said this, things that we usually say out loud that we are just doing it to entertain ourselves. Yeah. Right. And sometimes our wives find it funny, most of the time.
Not so much.
They're like, oh man.
Yeah. After 26 years, a lot of that's worn off.
Right. I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
But it's for humor. But if you're being sarcastic in a non-humorous way, or maybe what you're saying is you're trying to pass it off as humor, but there's a subtle undertone of realism there.
Yeah. So I think in my head where I ended up with was that passive aggressiveness is covering something else. Either I like being ashamed of like ruining my wife's pan or something, or being afraid that I'm going to offend her or come across as super obnoxious or not like, she was sick for like 3.5 weeks recently. And I'm like, at the end of at the end of that 3.5 weeks, my tolerance for her sickness went way down.
Right.
And I'm sure there was some there was some sarcasm in my tone.
Look who's finally not coughing anymore.
Yeah, we're like, or it was the,
took a break from coughing to tell me how much I ruined your pan.
That's right. Right.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. Right. So it was you feel horrible, but you had enough energy and stamina to go to work out today, or you had to you went to work. You don't feel like, so anyway, all these, I had this conversation with my wife this week. So it's not like I haven't talked to her about it. I am not being passive aggressive now is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, so it was just like my sarcasm ramps up when I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt your feelings, or I'm afraid you can't handle what I think I need to say. I think sometimes, or I know I've done something wrong and I want you to laugh so that it's not so bad when I have to tell you that I actually screwed that up. Like, I think that's part of it too, is I want to kind of soften the blow of me being in trouble. Cause I'm like, I jacked that up. I ruined your pan, literally ruined your pan. I'll go buy you a new one on Amazon. I don't know why I would be like embarrassed about ruining it. Like, it's stupid. I did something stupid. And so anyway, that's where I ended up with it. I mean, do you have those in your life where you're like, I use sarcasm like a ninja throwing star? I just chuck it at everything and see what it hits kind of thing?
Well, let's take a pause real quick to say our new blue check mark is brought to you by Amazon, which I just mentioned. They don't sponsor us yet.
But they should.
There, man. Someone's slowing down.
Slow on the go. Keep going.
I don't know. Like, I know I have sarcasm in there. I'm sure I use it way more than I realize. I have made a concerted effort to use those kind of things much less when I am serious, because I don't want it to be that I'm like, oh, you're never serious. You just say things that are goofy or off the wall, because then I feel like then you don't know, right? Like you don't really understand the intent there. And I want to get from this is selfish, Andrew, but there's only so much time on this earth. So I want to get from point A of potential madness to point B of, hey, let's quash this.
Everything's good again.
Right. I mean, is this in the big scheme of life? Is this something that we really should be mad at each other about?
Why are we spending any emotional intelligence and time on this? Because it's dumb.
I'd rather laugh together at something else. Than being against each other for something so mundane. But usually it's the small things, right, that bubble up and cause some of the bigger things to happen. So I feel like I've made that effort. I understand. I'm not perfect. I'm sure I do it, and it's the worst times, right? Because it's when you're tired or when you've just so sick of something, you don't want to deal with it anymore, or there's a lot coming at you at one time, and it's like a blow up, right? Like it's like a, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna get upset about a pan and I'm just using that as an example because. That's what happened in your life
today.
Literally
right. Today.
But you're like, trying to make a steak. I can't even use a knife on this pan. Why doesn't a pan get made to be used with a knife? Wouldn't they make a pan that I could use a knife in? I mean, I can't ever cut anything.
Right. And there's all kinds of excuses I had. Like I was between calls in a hurry. That meat had sat in the refrigerator too long, and I'm like, I'm not even sure if it's gonna be good. I need to get this stuff cooked. I'm going to test it, and then I need to find something else to eat to be able to be back on a call in like 10 minutes. Look at
this guy making steaks for lunch. For lunch. And Mr. Moneybags over here.
It was stuff we cleaned our freezers. That's why.
I was making a steak for lunch between meetings.
Like lobster tails. I don't have time for it. It's just,
surf and turf just exploded, you know?
Yeah, sometimes.
Why can't I just get a little bit of caviar?
I was going to say, Jennifer's like, can you open this caviar can? And I'm like, I don't have time. I just don't. Can you put it on a brioche bun? And I'll get it on my lunch, on my next break.
Send the butler up with it.
That's right. That's right. Tell Jeeves to bring me. Anyway, so, all right. I got a hopefully this will work. Can you write on a piece of paper, and people at home who are playing or who want to play along, write this down. Write down passive aggressive. So you're gonna make 4 columns. Okay.
Whoa. All right.
Aggressive. Aggressive.
All right.
Passive or assertive. I have no idea if this is gonna work. I apologize if it doesn't.
All right.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna speed round some questions, and you're gonna think in your head about a time that this is similar to in your life if it doesn't completely apply, and you're going to think about how you handled it, and you're going to write down how you think your response is. Does that sound fair? Into one of those 4 categories. So I'll give you something like, I avoid dealing with difficult situations that involve confrontation. How do you deal with difficult situations that involve confrontation?
Do I put a 1 under like the column?
Yeah. So just stick tally this.
Yeah. I think I'm assertive in those.
Okay. So we're going to see at the end of this how many, like, out of these things, what your preference is, like what your let's go with your default. Like your most often situations, you're either assertive, passive aggressive, or passive aggressive, right?
Sure.
Cool.
I think I on that one, I would say I try to be assertive to just hit it head on, get it done. I don't want things to linger.
All right. People trying to take advantage of me. This is the second one.
Okay. I get aggressive on that. I hate people trying to take advantage of me. I yelled in the phone the other day. A spam caller spam called me, and I was like, "You should not be calling me."
Wow.
Yeah, they're like, "But you have this credit card thing." I'm like, in no way do you know it. You're not affiliated with my credit card.
Wow.
And I
Grumpy
hung
old
up.
man him, huh?
I'm sure it was a robocall. No one ever knew, except for my dog who jumped 4 feet in the air.
You have to deal with a person in authority. How do you handle dealing with people in authority?
Interesting. I'd say probably somewhere between passive and assertive.
You just got to pick one.
I know, but like,
you got to put a stick tally in a column.
Yeah, I think especially at work, when there's definite authority, I tend to be more of the I'm not gonna just say no. There's no way. I'm just gonna go. That idea is terrible.
That seems assertive or aggressive.
I thought that was a little bit more. No, I'm not going to do
right,
that.
that's what I'm saying. If you did that would be...
You are more that person where somebody in some authority that could fire me. You're more gumption. There's another word I would use that's related to testicles and size. But like you should be proud of that because like you do have more gumption in that arena. Whereas like I am way more like I go, okay, I'm here to work for you and you're the one in charge. So
it's a little more passive.
I'd say that's passive.
Okay. I'm
dead air here.
Sorry, God dang it. Sorry, I'm trying to reword this so it makes more sense for the actual quiz we're doing, right? So, a group of people. I'm in a group of people, and the majority of them disagree with me. Do you think you're passive, aggressive, assertive, or?
Yeah, totally passive because I don't care, and I don't want to get in an argument with a group of people.
Okay,
because I'm never going to change their mind. I'm like, I'll just sit over here and laugh at you.
You have to deal with somebody who's very assertive. And we talked about very assertive
right.
Sometimes also means aggressive. I don't know why they wouldn't just put aggressive, but let's call it very assertive. You have to deal with someone who's very assertive. How do you handle that?
I start assertive, and then if they come back at me too hard, I'm like, hey guys, can we just get along here and figure this out? Then I get aggressive. So I'll put a stick tally in aggressive because then I'm like, all right, whoa, we got to slow down. What have I done to you? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's an interesting kind of variation of that. You have to deal with an opinionated person.
Everyone's opinionated.
Okay. What is your normal stance dealing with an opinion? Think about an opinionated person
that wants to shove it onto me.
Yeah. Most people who are opinionated think that everybody should think their way.
I agreed, but everyone is very opinionated. It's just a matter of how much they feel like their own voice should be heard. And usually, so let me ask you this, because what's a phrase that I use a lot? In every day. Well, that too. Right on.
Oh yeah.
And I hear you.
Yeah.
those two, you tell me what those are, because I would say they're passive phrases.
They're passive aggressive.
I don't think so. I think they're passive because I'm not aggressive about it. I don't go, that's a good idea. If you think that's a good idea, I just go, I hear you. I hear you.
Under passive aggressive behaviors, it talks about pretending to agree.
I'm not agreeing when I say I hear you. And that's what I will come back with people that are that are very opinionated. I'll go, I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. I'm not going to say, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say, you're full of you beans.
I don't want you ever walking away thinking I'm on board with you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but I also don't want to engage in the nonsense.
Right. I've heard what you had to say. Thank you.
My ears work. Is basically all you've said. Yes. I have hearing in both ears.
Right. If you have ever talked to me and you've heard me say, I hear you more than twice, that just means I whatever you're saying, I probably don't agree with.
That's good tips. It's like an Andrew hack or something.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
I hear you. I hear you.
He thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah. Wait, huh?
Oh, wait. All right. A neighbor's making too much noise.
Oh, that one. That's terrible because neighbors you have to live next to. And I do not get aggressive or assertive at first. I really try to, I stay on the passive side. And then if it got obnoxious, then I would get, I don't know. Let's say passive aggressive. I'm missing something in that column.
So you would be sarcastic.
Wow, it looks like you had a party over there. Everyone could hear it.
Right. Yeah.
That's passive aggressive.
I'm 100% in that column.
Yeah. Passive aggressive. I don't want to start a fight.
I'm going to try to make you laugh, but I'm also going to I need you to understand.
Yes.
I know. Right. I need you to know I think you're stupid. Or just tone it down. Right. Something you've done ticked me off, but I'm going to try to make you laugh about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just so that hey, next time maybe you'll think, oh man, I made a lot of noise.
I call it planting a seed.
Yeah.
I think my sarcasm sometimes is all about I just need you to have the seed in your head to go, oh, Steven made some sort of snarky comment. I really don't want another snarky comment or sarcastic comment. Okay. How I choose going out for dinner with a group. How I choose what to eat when going out to dinner with a group.
Yeah, super passive. If it's a group, because I don't care. I'll go anywhere. And I don't need I have no special dietary restrictions. The only thing is if something's a glaring red mark where I'm like, this place was horrible last time I go, I'll just throw it out there. Hey, this place was horrible last time I went. You might get bad service, but I'll go irregardless.
Okay.
Which I think works in that situation.
It does. Agree. It's a word for that. I don't get my way.
That never happens. I don't know. Maybe that passive aggressive. We'll say that's passive aggressive.
So talk to me about what your response would be when you don't get your way. Do you think it's sarcasm because you just mentioned you yelled at somebody?
Right, a robocaller probably, but it was a good enough voice that I thought maybe it's a regular
real person.
Yeah. Right, and then I yelled, "I'm going to block you!" It was just I wanted to surprise them. It wasn't out of anger, although it's annoyance.
Was it annoyance, not out of entertainment? Because I've yelled at people out of entertainment for myself.
Oh, that too. I do that. I like to, and then sometimes if you catch me if I have time, I'll play with them on the phone, and have fun with it. Okay. I wanted to one of my favorite ones is the person's because now everyone wants to buy your house, right?
Oh, yeah.
They text you and they call you all the time.
Constantly.
And then someone called me and I had some time and they were like, "Do you have property?" And I said, "Yeah, I got property." And they're like, "Oh, are you willing to sell it?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I got a lot of clothes and I got a lot of, I could probably sell some of those. And, I have a lot of stuff like furniture that I have downstairs in storage." And they're like, "What? No." You're like, "Your house. Do you have a house?" I'm like, "Yeah, my property's in my house."
Yeah, that's where I keep all my property.
And man, I went until they hung up on me. They eventually hung up. Right. I just kept going, well, where would I sell my clothes? Do you want to buy those? Some of them I don't fit into. I had a blast with that.
Wait, we're not done.
Sure.
We have one more, then we're good. So the last one is, how do you feel about taking responsibility for others' mistakes?
I had never. Why would
How would you handle that?
I would say probably assertively.
Okay.
That is not mine. I did not do that. That was yours.
All right.
I don't know.
All right.
Is there a right answer? Did I get all the right ansers?
Yeah, those are all the right answers. You have 2 passive, 2 aggressive, 3
just passive.
3 okay, sorry. 2
2
passive aggressive. Okay. Yeah, 2
passive
assertive.
tends to be passive is I would agree with. I tend to hang back, let other people do whatever they're going to do, because I'm not going to influence people to change their behaviors. That's just kind of the way I look at life. Unless I'm in a position where I need to be pushing the ball forward, like with my kids, I can't be passive about certain things that they're doing. Right? I have to, and that's when I turn assertive. Is under certain circumstances where I know things need to be happening. Yep. Work and my kids probably are the number one of assertiveness, and passiveness is groups of people outside of work, opinionated people on social media, all that, like people around me. Yeah. That want to hear themselves talk, or they need group decisions. I'm not going to go against we all got to do something. Yeah. All right.
The groups. Yeah. I'll go do that.
Right. I'm in it for the fun. I don't want to get mad about anything. Let's keep it fun.
So interestingly, I'm going to wrap it with just a little bit of this, which is I figured in my thorough research that I've done on this in the last few days, is that at work, I handle things a certain way. And I think I'm real assertive at work. At home, it depends on who I'm dealing with.
I can see that 100%.
And then in social gatherings, it depends on what social, sure. If I'm I don't care. So if I'm in a social gathering and you go, we're all going for sushi, whatever.
Sounds good.
Couldn't care less. So I will be the most passive person there. I will probably not. I don't even pick my own stuff off the menu anyway. I make a waitress do or waiter do that. Right? I couldn't care less. So I'm very compartmentalized in my behaviors, which I think is weird.
I actually don't. I mean, I think that's normal because you have to live with the people that you
care
live
about
with, your family.
You care about certain people's emotions and tolerance, and you've had more experience with them, I guess makes sense.
Plus, your behaviors are going to drive their behaviors to a certain extent because you live with them. Yeah. And then you're going to be the beneficiary of their reaction to your behavior. So, that could be a week-long struggle fest, depending on how you're choosing to do something, which may go against completely the grain of whoever you're living with, and then they're going to respond in kind. You don't have to do that at work. You can punch out and go home and go, they're
piss everyone off on this call, be assertive, and then I go, yep, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Cool.
The other only thing I wanted to throw in here, because I didn't know, I looked it up real quick, right? You're like, hey, we're going to do passive aggressive. I'm like, I need to look something up real quick. Do you know the history? Just the quick 2-liner of where it sort of originated?
No, tell me the history.
It was first defined clinically by a colonel. And it was during World War II, and it was because of the men's reaction to military compliance during the war, where they basically didn't necessarily want to be doing the things or were scared, whatever it was. They were either opposed to it, scared to it.
They didn't like it.
And so they're like, oh, you're going to tell us to go head first, into the German army on this front. And they were like, they didn't think that was a good idea, right? And so they were not openly defiant because then they would get
reprimanded by the military
or more. But they would express disobedience in passive measures such as pouting, stubbornness, procrastination, inefficiency.
Yeah,
where they
just
let's
slowing
take
the
our
whole
time,
thing down, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Obstructionism. Or, this tank doesn't seem to be working. Someone dropped a wrench. And
I don't know where the bolt went that makes the whole tank work.
And the guy, the Colonel Messenger was our Meninger. I think it's Meninger. There's
not
no S
Mustard.
In there. Meninger. And Meninger actually saw it and said it's an immaturity. That's how he saw it. Now, keep in mind, he's a colonel,
right? Yeah, right? Yeah, he's militant,
right?
It's all good.
He's like, they're not being.
It's a bunch of boys being stupid,
being immature. Right. And if they would just do what I need. And he did say it's he thought it was due to military stress. which makes sense. And the only other thing I would add, I know we're at time here, was that I think early on I was wondering, we were talking about why do we think maybe passive aggressiveness is maybe on the rise. And my personal opinion is part of it is the inclusion world that we live in. So like, especially at work, people don't want to say things are bad ideas anymore.
Yeah.
Like, someone will say something that's pretty obviously a bad idea. Maybe it's already even been tried before and it totally backfired. And people will be so like flowery about it. They're like, oh, well, I think that you have a good thing there. And they won't just say, man, we tried that. It didn't work. It failed miserably. We're not going to try that again. Like, you won't hear those words because then people will feel like, oh, you're not including me. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing my voice.
All voices should be heard.
Right. And I get that. To a certain extent, you don't want
that needs to happen.
Yeah, you don't want to just push people down and go, oh, that was a terrible idea. But I think that the level of assertiveness really took a back, like it's taken a bit of a backseat to that, in my personal opinion. But
you do see a lot more at work because of that, I think.
Nobody wants to say an idea is bad. Like, and it's like, and you have these group discussions and you come out of there with like 8 ideas or 8 things. And you're like, well, which one are we all going to do? Like,
we just went through some planning cycles and we go through discussions where everyone wants to tell you why they're smarter. But at the end of it, you come out with nothing.
Right.
Because the group is too big. There's too many powerful voices on there that go, I think we should do this. And somebody else goes something completely different. I think we should do this.
Right.
And you're like, well, we'll
take that offline.
Yeah.
And offline means that's death.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the trash can. It's where the offline is. So yeah.
All right.
We good?
I think so.
Cool.
Do we have gun? And we had the lemon beer. Thanks, Billy, for the donation. And wish I rated it higher. Yep. Thanks, Deb, for the stickers. We're going to keep pounding those around town.
Yep. Stickers are coming for people who give us some feedback or send us some beers or let us know how things are going. Interact with us. There's stickers involved now. So it's the real deal.
Yes. Thanks you. I lack the passiveness in my aggression, so here it is straight. The show has ended. I knew you wish it hadn't, but it did, and you'll be fine. So we'll pick it up again next week. Bye.